Have you picked up the phone and called any former president yet?
Yes, I have.
Do you want to say who?
No, I don't. They're private conversations. But, by the way, all of them have, with one exception, picked up the phone and called me as well.
Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. Welcome to day 29. Joe Biden suggested that anyone in the country who wants to get a vaccine should be able to get one by the end of July. White House COVID-19 response coordinator Jeff Zients said during a task force briefing that we are on track to have enough vaccine supply for 300 million Americans by the end of July. The U.S. has averaged 1.64 million doses per day over the last week, and roughly 56.3 million total doses have now been administered. If the pace of vaccination continues where it is now, Biden's initial goal of 100 million COVID-19 vaccine shots in the first 100 days of his presidency would be met by late March, roughly around day 67 of his presidency. Meanwhile, Biden clarified that his goal is to open the majority of K-8 schools by the end of his first 100 days in office. When asked to clarify what he meant by open, Biden said, "I think many of them 5 days a week. The goal will be 5 days a week in person." Last week, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the administration wants more than 50% of schools to have some teaching in person at least 1 day a week, not fully reopened, by the end of April. Kamala Harris, meanwhile, stressed that teachers should be given priority for COVID-19 vaccinations, but wouldn't say if she believed that teacher vaccinations should be a prerequisite for reopening schools. Dr. Anthony Fauci, however, added that vaccinating all teachers against COVID-19 before schools reopen is a non-workable solution. The Biden administration also plans to invest more than $1.6 billion in expanded coronavirus testing and genetic sequencing. Roughly $650 million will go towards testing in K-8 schools and homeless shelters. $815 million will increase manufacturing to address shortages in testing supplies, and $200 million will go toward increasing genetic sequencing efforts to help track existing and new variants of the virus. The White House called that $200 million a down payment that would increase the number of virus samples that labs can sequence, jumping from around 7,000 to around 25,000 each week. Testing coordinator Carol Johnson, meanwhile, described the $1.6 billion package as a pilot that will serve as a bridge until Congress passes the $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief bill. Moving on, Biden declined to support Democratic proposals to cancel up to $50,000 per borrower in student loan debt, saying, "I will not make that happen." He did, however, say that he was prepared to cancel $10,000 in debt, but anything more than that, he said, would require congressional action. Chuck Schumer and Elizabeth Warren, as well as other lawmakers, introduced a resolution in early February calling on Biden to use executive action to wipe out up to $50,000 in student loan debt, arguing that the Secretary of Education has broad administrative authority to cancel the federal debt. In response to Biden's dismissal, Schumer and Warren issued a joint statement saying that action is needed to immediately deliver much-needed relief to millions of Americans. "It's time to act," they said. "We will keep fighting." And finally, economists are warning that millions of jobs that have been eliminated by the coronavirus pandemic are permanently lost and unlikely to come back. A report coming out later this week from the McKinsey Global Institute says that 20% of business travel won't come back, and about 20% of workers could end up working from home indefinitely, which means fewer jobs at hotels, restaurants, and downtown shops. And in the polls, Quinnipiac says 52% of voters say they approve of the job Biden is doing as president. In February 2017, voters gave Trump a 38% approval rating. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditis.